So, with that, I think I'd like to just open this up in a word of prayer, if we may. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this time and opportunity to come together. This group here, Lord, we've met over the years. We have some new people here as well. We just thank you so much for them and for their presence here. And Lord, for their support on behalf of HCMA. We just thank you for the ministry that you have allowed us to have here, to be able to reach out in the different healthcare facilities and hospitals throughout this nation. We just thank you so much for that the gospel can be shared to those who are hurting and suffering. And Lord, that it's been our privilege to be able to do that. Thank you for the training that that those here have received through HCMA as well. So Lord, we dedicate this time to you, and we thank you for what will be said, and may it be pleasing to you. And it's in Jesus' mighty name we pray.
Amen. Amen.
Okay, just one quick thing. I just want to recognize the volunteers that have made this conference, in my estimation, a success. And those of you who have volunteered, hey, can you stand? As well as those who are standing as well. Wave your hands here. Did we lose all of them? I know there's Ann back there on the table. Diane is over there. Also, yes, and Nancy and all. We just appreciate very much your work and efforts here at this conference. What I would like to do right now at this time is to also turn it over here to Larry. Larry is our president and CEO of HCMA. He has stepped in at a very important time. A lot of this was falling on the shoulders of a half-functioning, board of directors, and he came in and just said, "Hey, I'll volunteer, and you don't have to pay me a dime." And so we are just so fortunate to have Larry, and for the expertise that he brings to the table here as well. And so Larry's going to have some things he wants to share with you, some great things, exciting things that are coming. Some of them have yet to leave the drawing board. Some of them are already in process as well. And so with that, Larry, take it away.
Thank you very much, Kurt. I am very excited to be here today. I am extremely excited because all of you showed up. I think that's so neat. It's hard for me to even imagine. My first conference at HCMA was about 4 years ago at Twin Peaks, and I was elected to be on the board at that time, and I had no idea that I would be sitting here 4 years later being the president. I'm as much shocked as you are for me to be here. And then that was very nice of Kurt to tell you that the board did decide to give me a raise in pay.
We doubled it.
Yes, that was really nice. They did double it, yeah. Anyway, we joke about that, but we have fun. We've gone through a lot lately, and the change has just been amazing. I see that particularly the chaplains have been taken out of hospitals, have been fired, they've been asked to leave. A lot of the chaplains have been in their facility 20 years, and they walk in and the guard says, "Well, oh, you don't work here anymore." They're really treated very badly from the hospitals, and we decided that we had to do something to keep HCMA alive and to keep us going. And we decided that we would work with the churches and become training group for churches. And we're starting the lay chaplaincy program. And thanks to everybody that's been involved, we have succeeded quite a bit right now. We have one complete program that we did at the Mariners Church, thanks to Chuck Williams. And it was kind of a test. He was our guinea pig, and it actually turned out very well. And we want to thank Chuck McElhaney for putting on that class and bringing us to this point. And then Nancy came along, and this was a super Nancy. She changed the class a little bit, and we took out the speed bumps, and it really accelerated into something very exciting, particularly for the students and for the teachers. So this is sort of a new way for us to go, is to go into lay chaplaincy. You'll hear more and more about that. And I really feel that lay chaplaincy will be our success. And I think as far as I know, I've done a lot of investigating, there's not really too many groups that are doing a lay chaplaincy program like the one we have prepared, being so professional about it. And so we have another program coming up with the Mariners Church in Irvine, California, and that'll start in a couple weeks for either our third or our fourth one. And the chaplains have really spent a lot of time and effort in training and preparing the classes. So, is that the fireplace behind you?
Yeah.
They're not ready to explode.
Is it getting hot up there?
I was gonna make a joke about that in just a minute.
You're going to have to take your jacket off, Dave.
I feel it in the back of my head.
Explosion, anyway.
We've had a lot of fun with it, and we're moving forward at a very rapid speed now. And if you can imagine, HCMA, like a corporation, we've decided to add more elements to our organization. We will continue to train chaplains for going into hospitals, and we will hear more from David Yanez about how we're working on that program. And then we have another program that we're working on for chaplains that will be serving in convalescent homes and areas like that, and Chuck Altig is working on that. And then our third division will be the chaplaincy in churches. So we're accelerating in every three areas of our organization. And what we're going to do with our chaplaincy in the churches, we will be doing a 6 to 8 week course, and that will depend on the church. If they can you either do it at 6 or 8 weeks, that will be up to them. And then we will be able to adjust to that. And then also with this program, I see it accelerating dramatically because we have so much response to the people that are attending this class. They want to become involved in HCMA. And we look back at our training program for chaplaincy, and we had over 100 people apply last year to become chaplains. And I asked Ann, I said, well, how many of those people that received the applications to send back in to become chaplains? And we actually received 0 back, not a single one. Out of 100 applications that we sent out, 0 came back. So there's something wrong with the program. People are changing so dramatically. They see what they have to go through. So we have to modify our teaching. We have to do maybe a little reduction in the hours required to get your certificates. We have to change several things to make it easier for people to become chaplains. People don't have the 2 years to wait. They want to get into it right away. So that's another thing that we're working on to help accelerate our program. And then through the lay chaplaincy, what we will do basically is teach, an HCMA chaplain will teach this program at a church. And by the response we will get from those people that have taken the class that possibly want to teach that class themselves at their church, we will do a training program to teach those people who take the chaplaincy training and are active in their church, and train them with a class to be able to teach more people in that same church. So it's kind of like a snowball that will move. And we also feel that this will help us financially also, and it will help the chaplains financially to teach these classes. And we have a opportunity to attend a Calvary Chapel International Missions Conference coming up in June, which will be in Santa Ana, California. And we have been invited to participate in their conference, and we will have a display set up, and then we will be able to present this to probably have the possibility of at least 800 churches will be represented at this conference. So this should really, really accelerate our training program, and we need a dramatic amount of teachers. And so if you have any idea that you would like to join the program and help us teach, we really do need you, and it's like it's coming up fast. We need you right away. And Nancy has developed a phenomenal training program for you to learn how to teach the class, and we will be having that available for you. So I'm excited about it because I think you're going to see a lot of activity, a lot of movement with HCMA that you've never seen before. I know we were used to, years ago, we used to be close to 500 strong, and now we're dwindling down very low. We have some very low numbers. I think we have about 100 active and about 100 retired. But it would be so exciting to see us get back to 200 or 300 or even 500 chaplains. So that's our plans for just the very near future. And if you would like to be a part of that program, please get a hold of Nancy or get a hold of me, or just call the office and talk to Diane or talk to Ann, because we would be really happy to help you with that.
All right. In deference to time, we're a little bit behind. Maybe if you have questions, just keep them in your think-a-later or write them down on the back of your hand, and then we'll get to them if time is allotted. Next we have Nancy, who's going to fill us in a little bit more about the lay chaplaincy training program and what's been going on up in Oregon as well.
Frida, you give me notice when I'm to 10 minutes, okay? Because I'm going to lose track of where I am. I'm an assisted living chaplain who after 10 years ended up having to stop that ministry, and so I sought how to serve within the church. And I was stepping alongside the pastoral care director, and I'm just going to skip a whole bunch of steps, but all of a sudden he was gone, he retired, and they handed me the program. So my whole life has not been charted out by me. The Lord had a plan. And so I was developing a visitation team at the church because I wanted to know where the homebound people were, where are the people that need visits. And so I started training. Out of the woodwork, 27 people came forward to be trained. Now that's the Lord. And so I started using Jeff Funk's book on my own. It wasn't any program. I thought this is really good material for our visitors. So I got through chapter 3 before the pastor before me kind of cut it off, and I ended up having to wait until he retired. And so all of a sudden, you know, I'm doing it on my own in the church, training people, but not with a title, just training them to be really good visitors. So then last year we started talking about it. It's not just me and my church, it's what Chuck Williams has been doing, and there's been a chaplain up in Washington that was doing some training in his own church too, and Rob, some of his chaplains are doing it on their own. They're not using our material necessarily, but realizing that our pastors aren't necessarily trained how to teach their people to visit, how to pay a visitation, how do you walk into a room, what do you say? What the listening part, if you've read Jeff Funk's book, chapter 3 on empathic listening, I'm the worst listener there is. You could be talking to me, this is embarrassing, but you can talk to me, and my mind is on something else. And then I come back in, just in time, but then I've missed something you said that's important. What?
It goes over your head.
Oh, it goes over my head. Short joke, check it off. Got us in for the hour. But anyway, then we started last spring basing some kind of a program for us on what Chuck was doing, Chuck Williams. And so I didn't know much about him, but I knew there was something going on down there and what Chuck McElhaney was doing. So we kind of watched and observed, and so last summer, we started putting together what we might do through HCMA. And basically, the book is the text. Jeff Funk wrote an awesome book, and that's the text, but what I started doing was writing kind of teaching plans, lesson plans for people to help them use the book to train lay chaplains. And so that's all I did was last summer, and then Chuck McElhaney was giving me material, and we were working on a team. And so last fall, we trained a bunch of you. There were about 20 that did the Zoom training on how to take the book, and I had drafted these lesson plans. So then I used some other material that came to me in December and January. I had to put on our church calendar the dates if I was going to do this, I had to put it on months ahead. So in the fall, I booked the dates, so then I was trapped. I had to do this. So we did it, February through March, and I'm looking at 2 friends out here, raise your hands. Those are my friends that were in the lay chaplain class. Yeah, 2 of the 15 that came. So I had 15 people who signed up and 15 people finished the class. And we went all the way through the book. The only catch was I had to do it in 6 weeks instead of 8. And so I did it, and I took some of the chapters and combined them together. But we did evaluations at the end of the class, and most of the class said that they would have preferred to have the 8 weeks so that you can focus on each chapter. Because I combined chapters 4 and 5, which are on death and bereavement. And then, anyway, I forget now the numbers, but for 2 weeks, we had 2 chapters we were covering. So only 1 hour to cover a whole chapter in a book. So it limited me on how much I could do with role playing or interaction between the group. I would have loved to have had 10 minutes or more at the beginning of the class to be asking them, how was your week? You know, I cared about them. I wanted us to have class relationship and be able to ask questions. So it's really what you call a pilot class is what I did. And so I was really anxious to meet Chuck here at this conference because he did it in 8 weeks. And now he's getting ready to do another class, but he's going to do it in 6 weeks this time. And I'm doing it again in September and October, and I'm going to do 8 weeks. I'm going to do it through the months of September and October. 3 or 4 of the people in the class, Vita and some others, have offered to help me with the class. So we're trying to figure out what that means. But anyway, last Sunday, a week ago, the 10 of us, I have to finish here and say, the 15 of us met for the 6 weeks. The last week, we had a party. We finished the material the first hour, and then we kind of celebrated the last hour. I had certificates. The gal in our office made them, and Larry and I signed them, and so they got their certificates. I had gift bags for them with materials they could use on visitation. Always the chocolate bar, the fun stuff. And we had extra special refreshments, and we just celebrated together what we had done and did some interaction and sharing. I promised them, I knew I should look at my list here. Brenda back here is artsy and crafty and everything, and she brought cloth Kleenex, that you put your Kleenex in, for gifts for everybody. So it was just a real celebration. And then the 10 who are going to go forward as lay chaplains, I've ordered badges. They just arrived Monday at my church office, but they're metal badges from a company called My Name Badges online. And it will say lay chaplain on it. So we met last Sunday to talk as a team. And I was thinking I was going to have to set the scene, kind of set the atmosphere that now we're a team, we're going forward. And they sat down and Rod looked around and he said, we're a team now. We're family. It was just the neatest thing. And so together the group decided they'd like to meet every other month. So we're going to do that for a while, and we're going to encourage each other. I gave everybody in the class a homebound person to visit. even though we have some of that covered, so they have something to do right away. And we're going to bring in do some teaching going forward, because when we went through the book, we didn't get to spend as much time as I would have liked. Now where the specialties are, the man, there was one of the men in the class, he's very interested in prayer ministry. And he wants to use lay chaplaincy in prayer ministry. And our pastoral staff is starting to notice this and is seeing how they might use lay chaplains throughout the life of the church. So there's no end to where it could go. I've been asked by our lead pastor he wants me to take the book. This is kind of humorous. He wants me to teach the book to all of our pastoral staff and the church council. And this is where I'm saying, Lord, what are you doing? I'm on a train that isn't stopping. But he wants me to take the top principles from each chapter, because our pastors don't know what you guys know about visiting people. What do you do when you walk in the room? What do you say? How do you assess what's going on in the room? How do you they don't know those things. And so they want very practical help in that. So I was just going to, let's see, I shared about that meeting. I was just going to give a couple quick testimonies. How many minutes do I have? Oh, okay. Just some of the things I learned from doing this. I said this was a pilot class, is that I'm going to try the 8-week method and see if I can have more camaraderie, more time to share, more time to ask questions, interact, and I think the people will sign up for it. Like I said, I would like to have had more time at the beginning to hear about their weeks. One thing I learned is that I am not responsible for what God is doing in the lives of the people in the group. I was feeling that burden one Saturday night and almost put myself 6 feet under over it. And then the Lord said, wait a minute, that's my job. If people come to your class or come to this training, if I want to call them to chaplaincy, I'm going to do it. And so that's what I'm finding, is that it took the burden off of me to just be there, be available, do the training. The reflections, I didn't mention that. Every week I asked the class members to write down a paragraph of what God was saying to them in what we had just covered. And they were phenomenal. Some of the people wrote pages, not a paragraph, because they were processing what they had gone through in their life, what they had experienced and what God was saying to them now. So it went way beyond what I thought. And these are the people that step forward, that want to go on. And so just a couple comments that came in on their evaluations. One person said, I want to use my time and gifts within the church. I think this could be a fit. The fact that we are about discipleship, this course could be the beginning of a Christian chaplain teaching movement. Whoa. Another person wrote, invaluable, practical and spiritual formation and guidance. I was also challenged by chapter 8 regarding boundaries, specifically to keep my spiritual life and relationships healthy. It caused me to realize my husband and I need to work on and prioritize our marriage. Let me see, can you hold the mic for a second? Thank you. Oh, okay.
On the boom stand.
Another person wrote, the experiences of those who have been there, meaning it was Chuck Altig and myself, we shared personal examples from our chaplaincy. And this person said, hearing how God made a way through challenging encounters gave me hope for my future in this role. That is such a blessing that he used us in that role. And I think that there's one more here. They said, make it an 8-week course and move it to 2.5 hours a week. Let's see, more people said that. There will always be a need for being alongside those who hurt. This training helped me be better prepared. And the last thing is a short paragraph here, reflecting on chapter 4 in the book, on stepping alongside those who are dying. The idea that a chaplain has a foot in both worlds, one as a pastoral figure and the other as a highly specialized visitor in the hospital room, meaning a chaplain, honestly appeals to me. I'm hungry to bring hope to the brokenhearted, and yet have never felt adequate to serve the church. But now, she says, she feels like she sees hope, that she can be used in this.
Amen.
Excellent, excellent. You know, we're on the cusp of something happening here. There's been a lot of interest, and just the 2 classes that have taken place, we've had a lot of positive response. And I know in a statistical population, that doesn't matter beans about, you know, how this thing will be received down the road. However, it does give us encouragement. And Larry and I both read over the comments as well. Nancy gave us a copy of them, and we viewed them. And I tell you, the only negative comments that I saw in there were that they wish that it was longer. Are you kidding me? Think about that one. So I am really encouraged on this. And one other thing before we hand off to David, and that is that David Yanez has also, as you remember last year, translated the entire book of Jeff Funk's book into Spanish. Now this has potential also, major potential. And this is where we're going to have, we're just at the beginning stages of investigating this and to see how we can go from there. But we do also need, if we go forward, we're going to need Spanish teachers, for sure. And this is huge. So anyway, I want to hand off here to David Armstrong. David is our treasurer, and he's going to give you a report on all things dealing with numbers.
I love that we're talking about the strategy and the future direction of the organization, because to me, the whole purpose of having a finance and finance committee is to ultimately be able to fund that vision so that we remain viable into the future. I'm David Armstrong. I've been with the board of directors of HCMA for, I think this is going on my 6th year. And I was indoctrinated pretty quickly early on by being nominated to be the treasurer, so this is my 5.5 year of being a treasurer for you as well. As I was talking, or sitting up here, Nancy was a little bit blushing about some of the compliments that she was receiving, because it's not, as she says, it's not just me, there are other people who are involved with this, and that's absolutely the case for everything that we do. And I want to spend a moment just recognizing my finance committee. First of all, we've got Diane Springle over there, who you all know. She's our chief financial officer and vice president. Been with the organization for I don't know how long, but she is absolutely the rock of our finances and accounting processes, and we could not operate without her. We've got Warren Rich, who sits on the finance committee as well. Linda Burkett, who is not with us today, but she has been a board member for coming on 20 years or something along those lines. And then we've got Kirk and Larry, who sit on the committee meetings as well. We meet on a monthly basis, and the whole point of that monthly meeting is to review our finances, to anticipate financial needs and anomalies that may be going on in expenses and that types of things, to make sure that there are checks and balances that are being taken into account as we are taking care of our accounts. And periodically, in conjunction with Nate Forrest, who is our financial advisor with Edward Jones, who comes in and reviews our performance with us, makes recommendations and suggestions about what the future could and maybe should look like, and things that we ought to be doing with our finances as well. I think this conference has been a really interesting one, because we spent some time here really talking about, you know, what is the future of HCMA? What are the ways that we can really evolve the skill sets that we've got? And, you know, one of the takeaways that I have certainly heard is that every single one of us is uniquely gifted. And so there was, you know, the first day, the first session, there was a discussion about what is your gift? You know, how would you fit into this different scenario? Do you like the sight of blood, or do you faint at that sight of blood? And if you do, then you probably shouldn't be at the present in a scene where that's going to be. Well, over the past few years, have had the unique privilege of helping to develop the strategies for a number of different companies. This last year in particular, I was sitting down with the Chief Medical Officer for the Dallas-Fort Worth Business Group on Health, and we were talking about physician executives and what makes a really good physician executive. And it occurred to me that it's true of every profession. And you can know what your gift is as a chaplain by simply answering this question. What do you think about when you are not doing chaplaincy work? Okay. And your mind will immediately be drawn to certain types of things. One of the things that you might think about is, are you thinking about the last patient you just saw? And how you could better respond to that person, help that person along with their journey? Are you thinking about one of your more difficult cases that you've dealt with and what you could have said differently or said better to provide more comfort to that person? If that's what you are drawn to, that makes you an awesome, technical chaplain. It's a beautiful thing, and that's what most people are. You could also be thinking, in my department, in my hospital, how can I elevate chaplaincy? How can I elevate the people who I am, who report to me and surround me, and really help other staff members and to increase the function of chaplaincy within this organization? And if you're thinking about that, you are a chaplain leader. And that's a beautiful thing as well, right? You could also be thinking, so I'm a chaplain in a hospital that is connected to lots of other organizations and systems out there that we could really be coming together and creating synergies around and really identifying better and better ways of sharing the gospel with others. And if you are thinking along those lines, then you are a strategic chaplain. And everybody may be thinking along, well, I think about each one of those types of questions in my mind in my spare time, but one of those is going to be is that you gravitate towards. And that's where your real strength and passion is. I have a request for you. If you fall in the last category, and there are not a whole lot of people who really do and do that well, but if you fall in that last category, I want to talk with you. So let me know who you are, or let one of these board members know, because we are really, really working hard to figure out what this future strategy is going to look like, is going to be. We've made some great progress on that, but I think we are always open to additional ideas and thoughts. So as I said before, the health of any organization requires continually monitoring of the strategy and the finances to make sure that the finance can ultimately support that strategy going forward. And as we continue moving forward, we need to make sure that we are taking advantage of all the talent, all the information, all the people who are uniquely gifted in this room to continue moving this organization going forward. I will tell you, we are financially stable. When we look at the finance performance or our account performance, investment performance over the past 5 years, in April 25th of 2018, we had a balance in our Edward Jones account of about $707,000. 2 years later, April 25th, 2020, that went up to $774,445. So, little increase. 20 to 21 actually saw a really nice bump, because if you remember, there were some things that were happening in the stock market that were really impactful. Tech stocks, for instance, went through the roof as a result of COVID hitting. And so we actually peaked in our investment account on December 21st, 2021 at $1,103,533. From there, we have experienced a tremendous amount of volatility, as you are very much aware if you look at the stock market on any given day. September 30th, 2022, that dropped down to $947,818. As of 2 days ago, we are back to $1,050,648. So we are performing well. We are stable. And when you look at just the growth that we have been able to maintain or achieve over the past year, the S&P return for the past year has been negative 3.7%, but our account has maintained a positive 0.51%. So that's not really growth, but we're not going down either, and that's a good thing. You all each have received a financial report. You should have that in front of you. I'm going to walk through that real quickly with you, just so you can get an idea of what's going on here. Going down the left-hand side, we see the different categories of reporting. So we've got revenue, and revenue is divided up into operating income and investment income, and then we've got a total income line. That one will fluctuate a lot with the ups and downs of the stock markets, and so it's not for the faint of heart. Expenditures, you can see the operating expenses, and then each of the line items underneath one of those, and then the total operating expense, and then the total expenses, and what we then break down is operating gain loss, investment gain loss, and total gain loss. The operating gain loss is simply the operating income divided by the operating expenses. The investment gain loss is the total income over the expenses, and then the investment over the total expenses, and then the total gain loss is the total divided by the total. Going across, you can see the current month. We've got the actuals and the budget, year-to-date actual budget, and I believe that's supposed to be 2021-22. Not 2020-21 actuals. And so it just kind of gives you a nice picture of where we are. You can see that for the current month actual versus budget, we're up a little bit higher. That's because we're in a season where we're collecting dues or membership fees, and so that goes up right now. It'll drop down a little bit later on, and again, you'll see these different fluctuations. What's interesting is that when you look at the total expenses at $16,461, that's not too far off from the $10,815 plus $4,410 from the dividends gained, and so plus or minus $1,000. And so what this should show you, and one more thing, this is not printed in color. But the only two red numbers are at the bottom for the operating gain loss and actual and current month and year to date. What this basically tells us is that we're plodding along, right? And so as long as the stock market doesn't take a crash, as long as it continues to perform in a steady way, we have some runway. And importantly, that runway is not about growing money or shrinking money. That runway is about investing back in you, investing in the strategy, investing in the organization to help with growth. On the backside, you can see our current status. In terms of our cash and investments, we've got cash in the bank of $66,000. We've got cash in our investment account with Edward Jones, $1,043,003 for a total asset of $1.109 million. And then you can see over the right-hand side our restricted funds that include our benevolence fund that we use for scholarships for people who come in who need some assistance to offset the cost of training. We've got our board and director new chaplain fund, and then finally we've got the chaplain's training fund. That chaplain's training fund is a restricted fund because it includes things like the expense of the conference here, the monies that go into it, housing allowances for all of you, and those types of things. I will stop here. It's been an honor working for you. and I'll take any questions you got, or we're going to do that at the end, right?
Next, I'd like to have David Yanez give an update on what's been happening with ICPT.
Doing 400 hours per unit. It's basically all their unit, including, I would have to say, much of how you even operate as a teaching chaplain. So any teaching chaplain that's here this afternoon can just work from their heart, from their convictions, from their calling, and make this a really neat proposition. It's no longer just a proposition now. We have actually signed the memorandum of agreement, which was signed by Larry Montgomery and Ramel Cuenca over in, the organization is in Orlando. So after that, yeah, and this was done just this month, by the way. This was only done in April 16th, I believe, 16, 17. And when I sent it out to Ramel, I guess me of little faith, I never thought I was going to get it the next day. And
Quality.
yes, so there you go. So the next day, Larry came on board and he signed his side. And now we're talking, and we're talking about the great possibilities of not just partnering, but we're talking about getting teaching chaplains from our organization to be trained with theirs. And basically, in essence, all it is one of us, say we have to do it only one at a time, obviously, but I'm looking for several all over the country, wherever we find ourselves, to sit in on a teaching session with their platform. And once we can get through one of their units, and we participate and we interact and we have, we look at the whole 9 yards from top to bottom, we will make the recommendations to the board and say, hey, this really looks like it could fly. It looks like this is the way to go. I'm hopeful that this will not only be the way to go, but it will be a transforming experience for some of you, but hopefully others that will be coming in that wants to take these. And by the way, the student doesn't have to take all 4 at the beginning. If we have, and we do have several students right now who are in their first, second, or third unit, they can come in at any point and ICPT will accept them and move forward. They don't have to take whatever units they didn't take with ICPT. Since we are accepted nationally by COMES, which is the Commission on Ministry and Specialized Settings, it's a national organization accepted every level of healthcare. We are accepted as a bona fide certified chaplain. And so that was another blessing. So we don't actually have to pay for that, we just have to spend the time sitting in on the unit of whomever it is that we're going to be sitting on. So I'm really thankful, I'm really looking forward, I'm really hopeful, once again, that this will turn the corner for HCMA for many, many years to come. Why? Because we will be competitive, we will be marketable in all of the hospitals, systems and hospices, healthcare settings across the United States. So that's pretty much the most I can tell you at this point, but I do appreciate your prayers. I know we went through a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of questions, and you may still have some questions, and so I will leave it like that, so God bless you.
Thank you, David, appreciate it. David, I also want to mention Terry Gott down here, who is also involved as well, either emotionally or physically or however, in the whole process. And we were able to put together, through David's assist, a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, which was signed by Ramel Cuenca, is it?
Cuenca.
Cuenca. And then also a MOA, which is a memo of agreement, memorandum of agreement. And that was also signed, and we have that now in the books. So these agreements are such that they're an agreement, they're not something that is contractual in that we would have to go to court or anything like that in order to sever, but we can sever the agreement if we desire, or they desire as well. So we're not exactly bound to it, but I think that they don't mind us being in alignment with them and vice versa as well. So just wanted to give you a little update on that. All right, with that, I'm going to get out of my chair here and become the roving Mike. And if you have any questions or any concerns, then I will get the microphone, and I see one in the back.
Will we receive an email of those agreements so that we can read them?
You want a print of the MOA and the MOU? Larry?
Just send me your email address. I'll be very glad to forward that contract to you. And by the way, Kurt, also, there's no money involved in this unity that we're signing up with ICPT, which is really a marvelous thing, and I think we're going to just benefit dramatically by this. So any of our chaplains can go into just about any facility and be able to be employed. So that's the exciting part about it.
Any other questions?
When do you think that this will all come to fruition so that this would be completed?
There is a button on the side. Well, for Android users, they're a different breed. With the iPhone, you have. Okay, for our panel, when do you anticipate this coming together, coming to fruition, starting?
Well, as I was saying earlier, that we're looking for some teaching chaplains first amongst ourselves. Once we identify those teaching chaplains that want to become part of the program, it'll take probably from the beginning to the end, anywhere between 3 to 5 months for us to get through one unit with that particular student. And after that, really, I think we would have to just say, hey, we're ready to begin in acquiring some new students here. So, we're talking about outside of maybe 5 months after we identify someone, and hopefully, yesterday, or over the weekend anyway, we have been identifying at least a half a dozen teaching chaplains that would be interested in becoming supervisors of this new program, ICPT.
That's good. Anybody else?
Are they accredited? They are accredited by the Department of Education. Yes, sir.
One of the things that I think they were talking about was that this might open the door for us to get into VA hospitals.
Yes, they are definitely aligned already with the VA hospital system, and the VA hospitals are using ICPT above ACPE in acquiring chaplains.
Oh, great. Anybody else here? We've got one right in front of me.
Question is, the chaplains that have been around for a while, will we be grandfathered into this program and they will accept us with our current training, or do we have to take additional training?
Sadly to say, you will not be grandfathered in, but there is another way of getting in. You could become a teaching chaplain and become a supervisor with ICPT. Yes.
Kimmel, what, I didn't catch the first.
You can become a supervisor
Yeah,
with ICPT as a teaching chaplain. Well, you'd have to be a teaching chaplain now,
yeah.
and then cross over as a supervisor. But no, they won't grandfather you, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we
They'll
could-
grandmother you, but they won't.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. The thing is, what if we don't want to become a teacher, we want to continue to work, can we use that reference in a resume that we're part of ICPE as a chaplain, or not? This is a question.
A reference as far as,
ICPT.
Affiliation.
Yes, we'll be on their website, by the way, yes. We will be on their website saying that we are now an affiliate of ICPT, and so they
David, I
could
don't think that's her question, I think she's asking.
be... No, okay, go ahead. What was it?
Can she use it?
Yeah,
She's
can she-
applying to a hospital.
We're applying to a hospital. Let's say we're applying to a hospital, can we reference that on a resume?
Not really, not at that point, no. Unless you become part of their program, the actual program.
And the only way we can become part of their program is if we teach first and then become a supervisor.
Correct.
And then we would have to convert over.
Yes.
Yeah, you can always begin your own program. You know, that's obviously something that you can consider. Just start with their units. Their units are, yes, more expensive, but their units are much shorter. You would have to begin and end in a certain amount of weeks, you know. And so that's another discipline that we would have to learn.
So if I'm understanding right, if any of us that are BCC through HCMA, if we were to take, they will accept up to, is it 3 units or all 4 units? But 3 units, and then we'd go 1 unit through them, and we would be eligible to be BCC through ICPT, right?
It's changed somewhat. We don't have to take any of their units to be accepted.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing we do have to do is become a supervisor and at least sit on 1 unit, possibly 2, but at least 1, and then we would be considered as supervisors, and we would be an accredited supervisor through ICPT.
Okay.
Is that only for BCCs?
At this point, it is for a BCC.
BCC.
Yeah, it is for a BCC. And the reason...
I accept.
Okay, the reason...
Inside joke.
All right, pay attention here.
Is it true that there is an advantage in the hospital setting for the ICPT chaplain to be independent billing chaplain for the services?
That is true.
That is true.
They would be Medicare,
That's what I'm after.
what's the word I'm looking for? Reimbursement. There would be Medicare reimbursement to the hospital because of the accreditation that the chaplain holds, correct?
Okay, hold on. I'm running. I'm getting my steps in today.
David, if a teaching chaplain with HCMA was to sit in on one of their units and to become a supervisor, sitting in that 1 unit, do we have to pay their tuition?
At this point, I don't believe so, no, because we don't have to, we're not actually taking a unit. We're kind of like auditing.
Yeah.
I don't know what other word you want to use it, but we're actually not taking a unit. We're sitting in on a unit.
We're experiencing the platform so that we can.
Correct. We're experiencing the platform of the way that ICPT functions, and we have to be familiar with their platform. It's a virtual platform. They use it maybe 95% of the time. They rarely have face-to-face, but so it's, anyway, it's virtual.
May I suggest that the teaching chaplains get a copy of the agreement that we have made with them so that we can all be on the same page?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
I was recommending that the teaching chaplains get a copy of the agreement that we have made so that we can all be on the same page and be sure that we understand that. So if a motion is...
Initially, that you have a BCC. In order to have a BCC, you have to at least have a master's degree to begin with.
But in terms of maintaining that role, what's the expectation? Is there things that we need to be doing throughout the year? CEUs?
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. We haven't gotten into a lot of that, I'll be honest with you. I'm gonna have to talk a little bit more about the mechanics of what the supervisor in training expectations really are. We haven't gotten that far. But I think those are the next conversations that we will have.
We need the best.
So the last is very important. I want all board certified, board BCC, and also CC people and board members to stand up for your ballot. Number one, okay. Or raise your hand if you can't stand up. So we get the ballots passed out to you, and while I have a little explanation, and so
Here.
People that are board certified, BCC, and CCC with